leads to a good night. But what happens when a good day leads to monsters inside? Even in happiness there comes sacrifice. Darkness awaits no matter what path you decide. Is it up or is it down? Is it in or is it out? Sometimes surviving is all you can worry about. When the day leads to night and the demons come out, I push slowly forward with every step. Even when I fall, I'm well prepped. Get up, darkness is only a safety net. Follow me and you will see.
What's up, guys? This is Alan with Untold Paranormal. So what this channel is going to be is a mixture of both scripted horror stories as well as scripted experiences, and also it's going to include some debunking of paranormal claims, as well as my own paranormal experiences and real paranormal investigations. Now, I know it may get confusing for some as to what's real and what's not, so I will always try to put a message like this at the beginning of a video to say whether it's authentic paranormal investigation, whether it's kind of goofing around to scare, or if it's actually scripted or not, to eliminate that confusion. The last thing I want to do is be dishonest with my crowd and audience, so I will make sure to put notes in the films at the beginning saying what exactly they are for you guys. And also stay tuned for some behind the scenes footage as well that will go into some of my scripted videos and explain exactly how they were done. Remember to like and subscribe. Stay spooky. So the following video is kind of a personal story. It's my personal story as what I've come to call my experience with my angel of death. So about 4 years or so ago, I was battling with severe depression, anxiety, and a whole bunch of mental health issues. And I started seeing a therapist and started getting medication for depression, and it just wasn't fitting the bill. It wasn't making anything better, so unfortunately he kept upping the dose, and as he did that, it caused me to start shaking. It started a little bit with just a shaking of my leg, but over the years it got so bad that my entire body was shaking to the point to where I would try to eat and things would fall off the spoon or fork before I could get it to my mouth. I had an eye exam one time when I was shaking so bad, and the nurses actually had to strap and hold my head down for me to be still enough to get the eye exam. And even then, they had to try like 10 times or something to get a clear image, or a clear enough image. So there was that, and my physician at the time referred me to a specialist for my shaking, not knowing that it was a side effect of some medication, or not investigating that further. And the neurologist that I saw at the time falsely or mistakenly diagnosed me with Parkinson's disease, and they put me on a medication, and basically a medication to treat side effects of the other medication is what they were doing, and it didn't work at all. And matter of fact, my shaking started getting worse and worse over time instead of getting better, so they kept upping the dose of this medication too. And about that time I moved back in with my parents because my health was getting pretty severe. So when I did that, I started seeing new doctors, and my eyesight actually went away for the most part. I could see, if you imagine the worst fog that you've ever been in your life, maybe magnify or amplify that up by a couple, and that's what my daily life was, no matter where I was. I could see general shapes if they were close enough. But like if a person was standing right in front of me, I couldn't even make out their facial features. I didn't know who that person was most of the time unless I could guess by just the general shape of their body until they started speaking and I could hear their voices. I couldn't watch TV anymore. Even on my phone, if I got my phone as close to my eyes as I possibly could, it got to the point where I couldn't even see anything on my phone, no matter how close to my face it was. So I kind of lost a sense of purpose. I started withdrawing and staying in my room, kind of in my safe place. And even then, there wasn't anything for me to do. I was so used to being focused on my computer and watching TV, and I couldn't do that anymore. So I spent a lot of time just laying in bed, staring off into nowhere, basically. And that's when the hallucinations started happening. At first, they were kind of innocent enough, but eventually they started transforming into scarier items. I talked to doctors about this, and basically what it was my mind was used to seeing. And with that visual aid taken away, I would look at things like the ceiling fan, know there was a ceiling fan there, and know what it looked like in my mind, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't make out the details. So my mind started trying to fill in the holes or the gaps for my eyes. And at first it would just cause hallucinations of, like, I would look up at a ceiling tile and it felt like I was in the ocean, to where there was like waves would start and it would make me motion sick. And but then my mind, as I started getting more and more depressed, more and more hopeless, my mind kind of followed suit with that and started taking in more terrifying hallucinations. I would look up at the ceiling towards the ceiling fan and see huge snakes that could like constrict, that were big enough to constrict and kill me. Maybe not eat me, but big enough to kill me, and I'm a big guy. This was terrifying. And they got worse from there, so they actually got me out of my room and into the real world for a bit, even though it was terrifying out in the real world without my sight. I started getting out and started just following family members around, anything to get out of that room, because that's where a lot of the hallucinations were. Because that was the room my mind was most familiar with and was able to draw on more memories, I guess. The hallucinations weren't anywhere as frequent when I was out and about. So I started getting out of the room as much as I wanted to just stay in there and not do anything. Those hallucinations terrified me enough that it actually drove me out. But it got to a point where my vision would get worse and worse until I kind of gave up. I found myself back in the room, just hopeless with despair, like contemplating suicide type darkness, and pretty well planning, not just contemplating, but planning. If you're ever in a dark space like that, reach out to somebody. Reach out to a family member, a friend, anybody, even the hotlines that are available, because there is hope. Things can change, and they often do change. Things usually get better. Luckily for me, they got better. But I think they happened to get worse before they got better. I remember going in my room one day and just knowing that there was a good chance that I would not walk back out of that room. And that was when that hopelessness and despair hit me the hardest. And I kind of lost my strength, lost my will to live. I stayed in bed probably for days. I'm not quite for sure because when that happened, there were a matter of days, maybe a week, that my days and nights were just mixed as one. It's hard to explain, but the nightmarish visions that I would have, followed by nightmare dreams, a lot of times I didn't know when I was awake and when I was asleep. And it was kind of like I had just checked out. I was living in complete and utter nightmare terror 24/7 for at least 3 days, probably closer to a week or two. And that's when I started seeing this woman. Uh, she was very tall, black hair, very beautiful. Uh, and when I say beauty, I don't mean in a traditional way. I mean, like, if you've ever been out in like severe weather or something and seen a tornado or severe weather like that, it's just how it's all breathtaking and beautiful. I mean, that kind of beauty. The kind of dangerous beauty like that, because I knew she like radiated power. And if you've ever been in a situation where you were facing death, that instant that you knew that death was only a pin drop away and you had little to no control over it, that was what it was like, that sense of power. I knew, whether she was real or not, or a figment of my imagination, I knew that had she decided to, or had my mind decided to, I would have died that day. And she started coming to me, I want to say in my dreams, but as I said before, there was so much stuff going on. I didn't know when I was awake or when I was dreaming. It was all tied together as one jumbled mess. She started talking to me, and it was more of not so much an audible talk. If a lot of people, I've seen like a lot of alien encounter documentaries and stuff sometimes, and when they describe the telepathic voice, that's kind of what it was. There wasn't really, I don't remember a voice tone, I just remember talking. And it doesn't make sense, but yeah, it's what happened. And I remember her saying that it wasn't my time, that she was going to make the hallucinations better, more tolerable, and that my eyesight would get better. That really gave me a lot of hope. And sure enough, the hallucinations started backing off a bit to where it went back. They transformed from these terrifying hallucinations that were so terrifying that they basically paralyzed me. They went from those to more trippy hallucinations, like I would look at the wall and I would see an eye on the wall, and it was like someone took a picture on the iPhone and kept magnifying in, and the quality was so amazing. Before I knew it, I was like pulled in to this eye, and I was traveling through blood vessels and bloodstreams, like I was on an ocean, basically. And it was one of the most trippy yet realistic scenarios that I've ever been in my life. Like, I don't even really know what blood vessels look on the inside, but I would bet that somehow my mind made as realistic of a scenario as it could. Uh, and it was like I was a wisp of smoke just going through the blood vessels and the entire eye and through my body, and it was weird. Um, so the hallucinations started calming down, getting more trippy instead of terrifying. And pretty soon after that, probably about 2 months after that, they realized that the medicine that the doctor had prescribed me for Parkinson's, which I didn't have, was giving, combined with the other medicine for depression, was not only giving me shakes but was taking my sight away. There's an lens in your eye that, or a part of your eye that generates fluid and controls the fluid in your eye, and that part of my eye just wasn't working. It wasn't regulating the fluid like it should. And so I stopped taking the medications, and eventually my eyes and the shaking got better. Uh, Luckily, I had some excellent doctors when I moved here that were able to work together as a team and figure all this out. Now, I thought about that woman since, and at first I was kind of afraid being involved in paranormal stuff. I was afraid that, hey, what if I unknowingly made a deal with a demon? That scared me, but at the same sense, I kind of came to terms with it. Like, if I did make a deal with the demon and I got my eyesight back, I'm not for sure if I would change that. Just that's how desperate I was. But as I've thought about it more and more, as I've contemplated it and done research, I actually think that I came in contact, or at least my mind rendered it so, it came in contact with my version of an angel of death. I believe I was that close to death's doorstep that I believe that I met my own angel of death. And I believe that there may be one or multiple angels of death, but they have the ability to appear to each person how that person would accept them the most. So I believe that's what it was for me, and that's my experience about why I'm so enthused about the paranormal now, why I want to study and get to know what's really out there and what isn't. I like debunking things, but I also like, going into a house where there's a supposed demon and challenging possible demon to interact with me and stuff. I'm kind of the more stand-up-ish person like that that's not afraid of that challenge, just because I've seen death and I've seen, I think, a glimpse of part of an afterlife, and as much as it scared me at the time, it's given me strength, and it doesn't scare me anymore.